Good evening and welcome to the first round of the 1980 Procar season here at ISO, coming to you tonight with the International Procar meeting, which took place at the Donington Park circuit, what is nowadays called the National Layout, which was back in the day the main layout for this location. With me in the booth tonight I have Tim Hiller. Good evening, Tim.
Good evening, everybody at home, and also to you, Jonathan.
How is everything with you?
Well, it was a nice relaxing Sunday, and I can't wait for some nice action here at Donington.
It definitely should be a good bit of fun. A quick disclaimer, I am on a new hardware setup, so if anything is amiss or there's something missing, any mistakes, anything that you think needs to be sorted, whatever it may be, please put it in the chat so I can try and sort it out as the evening goes on. But for now it's hopefully not going to be an issue anywhere. Speaking more about the event, we have the Donington Park National Layout, the main layout back in 1980. It's a 3.149 kilometer permanent circuit. We are using the officially released Donington Park track in AMS. So some of the things that we are seeing on this track were not there back in the day, but the length is still the exact correct length. The drivers will be going for 40 laps, which equals 126 kilometers in the mighty M1 BMW Procar. And based on the qualifying times, it's going to be mighty close tonight.
It's what you can really expect from a cup race, as we have it today with everybody in the same car. You got everybody really close together.
And I will say as a quick disclaimer, same kind of car. Everyone being in the same car would make it go very slow, with 28 people in it. But it's definitely going to be a whole heap of fun. Let's see. Right. This also duels as the first round of the 2023 Lukáš Vidra Trophy, named as such after our good friend Lukáš Vidra, who we unfortunately lost. I think it's getting on for almost 5 years now. Always a big fan of anything exotic and or fun to drive, and I'd say these Pro cars in its cup form definitely equals up to that with the action that we're likely to see on track. With this particular round in that trophy championship, the winner will take 15 points away from this evening, with second 12, third 10, fourth 8 and fifth 6, and then the points go down all the way to 10th place, dropping by 1 point every single time. For the Procar Championship points themselves, it goes, as you can see on screen now, with 20 points being awarded to the winner, 15 to second place, 12 to third, 10 to fourth and 8 to fifth, 6th point to 6th, and then 4, 3, 2, 1 from 7th down to 10th. Things to be noted is that only drivers who have completed at least 90% of a race's distance will be classified and can score points. And all results count at the end of the season, so there are no dropped scores or anything of that sort. It's an all-out war, and consistency is going to be key. I'd thought I'd have a very quick calculation at The 90% distance that the drivers would need to cover tonight is 36 completed laps. Something that we might need to keep in mind, depending on what happens tonight. But it's promising to be, with the tracks on this schedule, a very interesting season.
Yes, you said a lot of promising and nice tracks. We got Avos coming up later in the year as the finale, and also Imola, a track which I like very much. So looking forward to that one as well.
Yeah, Imola is definitely going to be a fun one. And as always, this championship will also bring us to Monaco, and Monaco is always one of those seat to the edge of the seat and keep your wits about you, pants on kind of deals. And it's going to be interesting to see how the drivers tackle it with these much heavier cars than the F1 cars that will go to Monaco later in the year as well.
It will be also good to see which drivers can be fast at every circuit and who is maybe like a fast circuit or a street circuit specialist, because we got basically everything covered in this beautiful schedule.
Indeed. I say the only real Mickey Mouse track is Monaco, but apart from that, I agree with you. We have Jonatan, which is a bit in the middle, along with Brands Hatch, and maybe Imola. And then obviously we have tracks like Avus and
Österreiching.
Hockenheimring and Österreichring, which are hella speedy. And then we have a couple of street circuits and the sort of technical fest that I think Sunfort will be this season. A little bit of knowledge about the cars and the tires for this evening. The 9080 BMW M1 Procar had a 3,498 cc inline, i.e. straight 6-cylinder engine, more or less than a 3.5 liter engine. Mid-longitudinal position, meaning that it effectively was mounted 90 degrees to the side compared to what it would be in the engine compartment. Double overhead cams, four valves per cylinder, producing 470 brake horsepower at 9,000 revs per minute. A fiberglass body shell, a box section steel frame, and weighing in at just over 1 ton, or roughly 2,250 pounds. Which, comparatively speaking, is not heavy by road car standards, but by race car standards, that's quite substantial 1 ton of a car.
Other notable thing is the sound of the engine. I would call the sound majestic in a way, because it's just such a unique sound you rarely get. And if you hear this car in real life, it's amazing. It blows you away, literally, because you can't comprehend how nice it sounds. At least for me, obviously, the sound is something subjective. Everybody has a different opinion about it, but this one, it's special.
I would agree with you. There are a few select engines where you go, oh yeah, now that's an engine. Another one of those for me is the we call it an IH in Sweden. I think it's called International or something like that overseas, which has a V8 stock block engine in it, and my brother owned one of those many years ago, and that was one of those where when it was sitting there on idle, you would just sit beside it and be like, meditating along with the engine. For the tire rules, each driver will have 2 sets of tires for the entire event, that meaning qualifying, warm-up and race, so effectively 1 set for qualifying and then 1 set for the race. It's probably not going to be worthwhile switching tires in the race. I think it's effectively a case of you'll have to try and deal with whatever tire wear you end up with.
The tires are actually quite stable over the distance. I did yesterday pretty much a race simulation, and at the end you're still able to get close to the times you've done at the beginning of the stint. So you only want to change the tire if you got a really bad flat spot on it, or if you got a puncture somehow.
Well, that's interesting to know. I'd expect them to be a little more of a factor, but maybe at least around here the speeds aren't high enough to really wear the tire, but maybe around a place like Österreichring or Sandford they might play more of a factor. But it's still one of those things where if you really go sideways, you'll probably feel it more than others who have been a bit more neat and tidy about it, shall we say. And I think before the race, because I expect this to be a very hectic race, let's have a quick look at the trivia question for you tonight. All graphics and question. Regards of Jason White. Thank you very much, Jason, for always producing really good graphics for us. The question for you this evening is one that I had no idea about, and I will say I also answered the question wrong. But the question is, which Italian designer penned, as in designed, the BMW M1? Was it A. Marcello Gandini? Was it B. Giorgetto Giugiaro? Or was it C. Nuccio Bertone? I probably butchered those names, but as I said, I had no idea. I don't know if you might have an idea, Tim.
I am as clueless as you were.
Let's save that for later then and let you have a bit of a thought about it.
Yeah, I need some time, man.
Fully understandable. Right, let's get us onto the server here now. So we are up looking down at what was the location of Starkist Bridge, which in modern terms is no longer going across the track, but you can see it just on the right hand side of the track and the very quick left hand kink here. Part of the fable and important history of the local area. Let's see if we can get an onboard with anyone going for a lap who has gotten around to nearly start a lap. Here is Cesar Slapinski. I know he qualified very well here tonight, so let's jump on board with him and see what the track looks like. So out of the park corner or park chicane onto the start-finish straight, holding fourth, going into red gate, down to what I'd assume to be second gear. Important to get a good exit here. Down through Hollywood and down into the Craner curves, these very quick off-camber right-left combination, down into the old hairpin. One of the most difficult parts of the track because it leans out and you're braking downhill. past Starkest Bridge and up to McLean's, Matt Neal's most favorite passing opportunity. Very tricky right-hander, use all the road available, then up to Coppice, a double apex right-hander. One of, I'd say, 4 passing opportunities if you set it up right. Again, very important to get a good exit here onto the back straight, and now heading down to the card chicane. You can see we're braking over a crest here, so it's quite easy to lock a brake into the right and then the left, and then back onto the start-finish straight to finish 1 out of what will be 40 laps in the race itself.
As we've just seen, it's a really challenging track. You got lots of elevation changes, especially into the corner curves, where the car can be quite twitchy if you get a wheel on the grass and your car's just a little bit not as fast as last lap, but you're thinking, I can be this fast again, and then the car just spins on you. I've experienced this a fair few times.
Well, that's again also with the weight of the car. Despite it being a sports car, there's quite a bit of body roll I've found, and it makes it very interesting and somewhat occasionally very tricky to drive.
Yeah, you basically have to be as smooth as you can, while also giving a little bit of aggression into the driving style. Because if you're not aggressive enough, and basically too laid back, you won't be able to get any good lap time out of it. But if you're driving too aggressive, you're losing your tires, you're losing everything, you will have a lot of spins. There's this famous quote, or there's a fine line between genius and insanity. And I feel like this really fits the driving style, because it explains what the important part here is.
Definitely so. I would say the most akin car in modern day terms, I'd say is probably the V8 supercars, which weighs a little bit more than these, I believe, with a V8 engine in them, and at least in the 90s and noughties, that was pretty much the way to go about it, where you needed to be precise, but you definitely need to try to get speed out of them. Otherwise you were nowhere.
The super touring cars we drove at the last race last year, also you needed like a similar approach there. If you weren't pushing the car, you were going nowhere. And if you weren't pushing enough, you were also getting nowhere.
And here I am sitting as one of those that is effectively, I jump into most of those super touring cars and I immediately go, well, hello there, old friend. And within 5 laps I'm doing relatively decent times. That race though was difficult last year. That Toyota was very long in the tooth, but a lot of fun. We can see here Keo Michiels we're looking at, and he's having quite a bit of understeer in that BASF sponsored machine. So I'd say he is sort of in the position of not pushing it quite enough, maybe. We have here as well Kenny Horton driving. We saw him in the first F1 race of the season. He has given up his ride there in the Minardi, but will be partaking in the M1 Championship. And considering how well he did in the Super Taurus Melbourne last year, I'm very much looking forward to what he can do in that Alimpo car.
Yeah, I think we could have a few surprise drivers who didn't get a good car in F1 or haven't driven before, but because these cars are all equal, they can show their potential here and show how great they are.
See, we also have our good friend Jason White driving the Grundisch BMW Italia Total sponsored machine number 70. The Mazzario team That'll be when I hope he has a good set of good races. He always does a good job with the broadcasts and the graphics. Let's see who else we have looming around here. We have Francisco Amaral in the Po Jeans car, BMW Schweiz. A sponsorship that whenever a British English speaker sees them, it's usually a bit of a giggle going on in the background.
It's quite a stinky car, to put it like that.
Quite. Let's see, who else do we have? We have Adriel May in one of the other Grundish sponsored cars, Team Schnitzer, the BMW Italia banner on the windscreen, number 62. We have Ricardo Mendes driving the number 28 BNS Fabrications car of Carlos Reutemann. Gabriel Sturr is driving the Kanacher GT entry in a very striking red and yellow colors of number 75. Juha Bors is driving the dark blue Procar, and I must say that is one of those liveries where you just go, that is clever. With the way they did the zip clothing kind of thing.
When I look at it, it reminds me about Sweden, actually, in a way. Because you got the blue and the yellow stuff in there.
Quite.
But once you realize that it's Zibber, you go like, yeah, quite smart. The guys were back in the day.
Indeed. We also have Jan Kowalski in the Abel Lepitre Scuderia Basilea number 61 car. Alberto Ibanez will be driving in the number 25 Pironi BNS Fabrications entry. Simon Wattman is driving the Marco Rennsport, the Marlboro sponsored number 88. Looks like Hugh Gardner was the driver of that car. Alan Santo will be driving the number 45. Memphis red and white BMW. So we've seen the number 5 BNS Fabrications. Grant we can see here all crossed up coming through the chicane with David Saber in hot pursuit in the Valvoline sponsored number 40. We have Alberto Junior in one of the BNS Fabrications in the hands of Alan Jones in real life. We have Richard Wilkes in the Schutz Racing Air Press car. Anders Nilsson is driving the Gusser Bear number 77. Giovanni Santorame is driving the Zoll sponsored car. And we have John Tim in the Kasani Racing machine. With one of those other, shall we call it clever liveries of back then, the HIS jeans sponsorship.
It's a perfect ad if you got a helicopter flying above it.
Quite. We also have Hedison Oliveira in the Jurgensen and Son number 42. I believe that is a one-off for this event.
It is.
I do notice that there is some tire issue with the number 99 Olimpo car. I think that's down to a fix that I no longer have with the new hardware. So I hope you will bear with us for this evening, and I'll have it sorted before the next round of the championship. Luciano Rocha is driving the second Scuderia Basilea car, the number 60. And I believe that is most of our drivers. We have Ray Riddle in one of the denim cars, number 81. Sabre in one of the BNS Fabrications, and yeah, with 45 seconds to go. Do you have any ideas on who you reckon will do well and maybe score a win here tonight?
I would say that's basically unpredictable given the qualifying gaps we have had. But Grant looks quite settled right now in the warm-up. So, I mean, he would be the obvious choice. But I'm going with Wilkes today. Because I've got a feeling that he might actually win this race today. Could be his race.
Definitely a possibility. Now, I think I'm going to put on a dark horse on Horton being able to put in a very good show here. But again, it's going to be very interesting to see how this all goes. Also very nice to see all of you joining us here tonight with a lot of viewers, and I hope you all enjoy the show. It's probably going to be very interesting indeed here, with what looks like to be 21 drivers on the grid. Make that 24, 25 maybe? Not everyone set times during the warm-up session. Let's see, we have 26 cars ready for this event. Now it's just a question of waiting for a little while as our drivers prepare to join the grid. And then I believe there will be one warm-up lap, and then we will get ready to head off into what's going to be a quick and frantic 40 laps. There we are. I needed to sync up with everyone, get everyone on the same wavelength in terms of the internet connections. And we can see here Schlapinski will be starting from pole. With, I would say, a very impressive showing by Ricardo Mendes in qualifying. Let's have a look. So Schlapinski in number 5, the BNS Fabrication starts from pole, with Grant Woodall for Project 4 in second. Giovanni Santorame for Sol Auto BMW starts from 3rd place, with Ricardo Mendes and the BNS Fabrication starting from 4th. Anders Nilsson will be starting from 5th for BMW Austria, with Richard Wilkes starting from 6th for Schutz Racing. Alberto Quinos qualifies 7th for BNS Fabrications, with Gabriel Steur qualifying 8th for Kanacher GT. Jon Tim will be starting from 9th in Manfred Casani Racing entry, with Joa Bos rounding out top 10 in qualifying in the Sauber Racing Switzerland. Kenny Horton qualifies 11th for Limpo Motorsport, with Jason White qualifying 12th for Merzario team. Hedison Oliveira qualifies 13th in the Jorgensen and Son car, with Jan Kowalski 14th for Scuderia Basilea. David Saber qualifies 15th in the BNS Fabrications entry, the car driven by Jacques Lafitte in real life. Unfortunately, it looks like Keo Michiels has missed the grid and will be starting from the pit lane in the GS Tuning car. He qualified 16th. Jakob Fredriksson will be starting from 17th for Team Schnitzer, with Alberto Ibanez 18th for BNS Fabrications, Luciano Rocha 19th for Scuderia Basilea. Matthew Sebagnoni starts 20th for Eggenberger Motorsports, with Simon Wattman 21st for Marco Rennsport. Ray Riddle 22nd for GS Tuning, with Emil May 23rd in the Team Schnitzer car. Francisco Amaral 24th for the second Sauber Racing Switzerland car, with Michael Drexler starting from 25th for Merzario Racing, and rounding out the grid is Alan Santo in 26th for Team Schnitzer. Righto, let's get the race going here. It's going to be quite hectic, as we can see all the cars lining up on the grid. We can see one of the cars in the background. I believe that is... I'm unsure who was driving that car now. That's at least the 9th placed qualifier. Has a bit of an aggressive looking lineup there, but getting ready for the green light. And there we go, the race is underway, and a great start for Slapinski. We can see everyone else here scrambling. We can see, a slow start for Jason White, unfortunately, gets a little bit of a tap. But going into turn 1, we can see one car on the grass in the background. But let's see if everyone gets through this first turn all right. Kowalski a bit sideways, or a bit more contact there, but it looks like everyone gets down to the Craner curve, so safe and sound. Down towards the old hairpin, Slapinski first, Grant Ridall second, Wilkes third, Sandranova fourth, Mendes fifth, Nilsson sixth, Tim seventh, Stur eighth, Equino ninth, Bors, and I'm not sure who was 10th. And we can see there, rounding out the back of the field at the moment, is Kilmi Keels coming down into the old hairpin right now. So back to the front, we have Slapinski, Ridall, Wilkes, Sandranova, Mendes, Nilsson sixth, Tim seventh, Stur eighth, Equino ninth, Bors 10th. With Stur looking to make a move on Jon Tim here. I think he's close enough, so he's probably going to have a go here into Parker turn, and he outbrakes. Locks a brake though twice. Still should be able to. Jon Tim runs wide. That invites Alberto Junior to get a run instead, and looks like that is going to happen.
Jon Tim was probably looking for the switchback on Ster, but one was a little bit too hot mid-chicane, so he ran wide and nearly lost it to Inquino, who has a bad ping for me at least.
Yeah, he just dropped for a moment, but looks like he's back, so hopefully all will be well there. We can see a bit of a battle in behind there. That's Kowalski and Sebagnoni battling hard for 14th. With Fredriksson and Oliveira in front of them, in front of those two. We can see, you see on the timing that, Kowalski all sideways up at McLean's. Goes off into the gravel trap, and I think that means he'll be, I must have stalled, and that's stuck in the gravel, and that's it. Emil May gets passed by Keo Michiels. And let's see, up at the front, Slapinski is being hounded by Grant Ridall. Grant Ridall looking for a cutback here. And Grant around outside, surely not. He's giving it a go, but now for the cutback. I think he has to run. He's up the inside indeed, through Hollywood, down into the Craner curves. And Grant Ridall takes the lead. Slapinski down to second. Great move that.
After Cesaria's got this beautiful start and already had a massive gap after turn 1. He's now looking backwards rather, because Richard Wilkes in this beautiful black car is filling up all his mirrors by now.
Indeed, and look at that, Grant all sideways, trying to get the power down as well as he can. And it looks like most of the guys... that's Oliveira entering McLean's way too quick, but gathers it back up and will be able to rejoin. Losing a few positions, but should be able to safely rejoin up at Koppes. There he goes. Nicely done. Looks like the closest gap at the moment is between Juha Bors and Alberto Equino. Both Equino and Bors all crossed up going through Craner curves and now through the old hairpin. Both of them gathers it up relatively well. But that looked quite scary for a moment there.
You definitely need to be a calm driver to drive these M1s, because if you overreact in one of these slightly loose situations, you will instantly lose the car, because all the weight from the rear will just turn around and say, see ya, and the gravel trap.
Indeed. Notice there's another, look like a fairly close battle, but it's spread out a little bit now. Back with Ibanez and a couple of the others, but here is Bors looking for a run up the inside on Equino, but thinks better off it at Red Gate and tucks in behind. Might feel that the fifth, make that the sixth, doing it on the start of the sixth lap is a little bit early still. And I think Equino might have tried to move on Tim, but that didn't come off well at Coppice. Bors really late on the brakes, all crossed up. Oh no, I think, he just gathers it up, but I think he might lose the position here. Looks like he won't, but that lost him quite a bit of time, to nearly 3 seconds make that. So that's a very costly small error. And here is Drexler getting a great run onto the straight, and looks like he's going past Santo. Looks like that position is done and dusted. Oh, and unfortunately Keo Michiels, with a bit of understeer there, runs off at Red Gate. Ooh. Amaral goes past, as does Simon Wattman. So unfortunately some of the positions Keo has gained has again been lost, but at least still able to keep running.
The top three are slowly starting to get a gap to the rest of the field. The top three are currently Cesarios, Grant and Richard Wilkes. All of them within 3 or 4 tenths of each other.
Indeed. About a second and a half nearly down to Santorame in fourth. But then for me it sort of becomes a question of how hard are they using the tires though.
Well, I guess we will see at the end of the race whoever drops off the most pace or whoever maybe spins, because the cars, even though you can do the lap time still, at the end of the stint you have to be really careful, because especially the rear left tire, it just disintegrates lap by lap, and at the end of the stint it's really, you need really a lot of caution, or otherwise we'll just spin and spin and spin and make the tire deck even worse.
Mm-hmm. We can see here Mendes, who was keeping Santorame honest, has dropped back a little bit from him and has fallen into the clutches of Anders Nilsson, who has a good run in the Gusse Beer car and outdrags Mendes down the front straight. Wow, that almost looked like Mendes decided to let him go and try to hook onto his rear bumper.
Sometimes it's easier to let the guy behind you pass if you know that this is inevitable. It just saves you a lot of nerves, especially if you look into your mirrors. A car is always making you more nervous than if no cars behind you.
Indeed. Let's see, there's a battle up at the top of the Craner curves. It looks like that is Kenny Horton finally making a move on Sibagnoni. So Horton up to 13th, Sibagnoni back to 14th. Then we can see a whole group of cars sticking together there, and Keomi Keels on the grass in the crane curves, but able to slow the car down enough. And then we have Simon Wattman coming here, and then there's a bit of a gap back to Aniel May, who is coming there at the top of the crane curves. I would say this is definitely not the easiest track to start racing these M1s at.
Well, I think Avos might have been the easiest track to start with the car.
In a way, yes. But in another way, no.
Drexler going for the overtake against Jason into turn 1. And
there we are.
he has done it, and Jason runs a little bit wide and might lose another position to Ray.
And Santo looking for a chance as well, but I think that ain't happening right there. So Jason able to slot back in 19th at the moment. Almost looks like he has a tiny bit of damage to the left rear. Obviously he had got a bit of a tap at the start of the race, so maybe that's a remainder of that moment. As the Social Lapinskis has the fastest lap, 1:13 flat. That's quite quick. And Drexler breaks himself up at Koppes, and Santo unfortunately almost runs into the back of him. Has to shake up, and Hedison Oliveira gets past who I believe is his countryman. And a big lock up in front as well. Jason White locks up as well, in avoidance. And Luciano Roja is out of the race. No, that wasn't Roja. Who was that then? Jakob Fredriksson is out of the race. Dear me, unfortunately I do not have replays engaged, so I can't show you what happened to him, unfortunately. But Fredriksson has retired from the race. That's very unfortunate indeed.
Kayo catching up again. It doesn't matter how big the mistake is or whatever happens to him, he's always coming back at you.
Indeed. And looks like he made a move as well. It looks like Santa might have a problem actually. I think he made a mistake somewhere.
But he's back on track running. Everything seems to be in order. Probably just a little visit to the gravel trap.
Yeah, not unlikely. We've seen a couple of drivers have issues up at McLean's, and it is a tricky braking zone. You can see here Equino heading up there, so let's actually jump on board and see that it's curving. It's curving when you begin to brake, and then you still need to brake, and you need to try and get the car straightened out. Get more on the brake then, because you can actually brake more when it's going straight, and then you need to ease off the brake to get the car to begin to turn into McLean's. But obviously all of that is easy when saying it, but doing it is quite a different matter entirely, as Equino's looking up the inside on Jon Tim here into the Parker chicane, but is not able to get the move done. Oh dear. Aniel May trying to get out of the way, but ends up on the grass, but thankfully for both herself and the other drivers, she spins on the grass, does not return onto the track, and all is well. Relatively speaking. Oh, well, and Santo unfortunately off again. I wonder if he may have flat spotted his tires and that's causing him issues.
Well, if that's happened, he has a little bit of a problem because he still has 28 laps to go. Maybe 27 if he gets slapped, but you don't want to drive 27 laps with a bad flat spot.
Indeed.
Kaio has another off, he visited the wall even.
Oh, dearie me. That is unfortunate. Also up at McLean's, so that is definitely a very tricky spot for these cars and drivers. Owen goes slightly off again. Possibly probably a lot of muck and gravel and debris on the tires, and that's obviously causing him to lose a bit of grip. Looks like he's back up to pace now. A bit of a lock up there for Ibanez, and looked like he ran a little bit wide, but there's a yellow flag here. Oh, Kenny Horton is off. Looks like he may have spun over at Starkey's bridge, the left-hander, maybe snagged the curbing a bit too much, and unfortunately that's the end of his race.
He also lost the engine. I don't know if he lost the engine in the crash or if he stalled and the damage was too much, but either way, he's out.
That's unfortunate. That was a good effort up until that point.
And Hua has caught up again with Little L and John Tim. So, who knows? Maybe we get another fight between these three.
Could definitely happen. And I will say the field is more spread out than I was expecting at this point in the race, but I suppose everyone is trying to deal with the tire wear that is probably starting to creep in.
Well, we got some small group consisting of 2 or 3 people. Alberto Ibanez and Rainbow Doll would be one, and Drexler and White. I mean, they were close when I looked at them last time. They aren't now. So, maybe at the end of the race, when the tire degradation plays out, we get some more racing.
Definitely could be what we should hope for and look out for. But Equino now with a good run on Jon Tim. He could have an opportunity down at the Parker chicane now. Ooh, definitely trying. A bit locked up, as is Jon Tim, but both of them get the car slowed down and both of them navigate the chicane properly. Oh, and Kyo McKeels has retired as well, I just noticed. Maybe him, a case of him trying a little bit too hard and it finally caught up to him.
He just says in the YouTube chat he had no force feedback.
Ah, well, that's can certainly have an effect if you're used to a lot of force feedback or any force feedback at all. So that's unfortunate, but that is then a very good effort considering that fact.
Yeah, you definitely need the force feedback to drive the M1 because in a way the car is talking to you with the weight moving all around in the back. So I would call it nearly impossible to be fast in the M1 without any feedback at all.
Well, challenge accepted then. I'll give it a go. Oh, you have balls up the inside at the Parker chicane on Equino. Coming shot like out of a cannon out of nowhere and gets the move done. Balls up to 9th, Equino back to 10th. That sort of felt like Equino going, I'll take it a little bit easy into the chicane this time. Brake a little bit early and be a bit nice to the tires, and you are saying, I'll brake as late as I dare.
Matthew Zibagnoni just spun and has now retired the car.
That's unfortunate. So that's unfortunately another retiree in this race. It does look like in between these three, Jonatan, Johan Bols and Alberto Quino, Johan is definitely the best on under brakes, as we have a yellow flag here. Oh, that is possibly for Angel May. They're getting out of the way for the faster cars. Oh, you are too wide at the old hairpin. Oh, all crossed up, holds on to it, but loses out to Alberto Quino. So all that hard work outdone by one tiny little slip up. But very nicely done in holding on to the car. I was just going to say, I've noticed that with all these three, they are now using a little bit more curb in the Craner curves, especially the left-hander going down towards the old hairpin. They seem to be using a lot more of the inside curb compared to what we were doing, say, 5 laps ago.
Maybe it's a thing of confidence, like now they exactly know what to expect from the car. And they just go, alright, I can go this little bit further onto the racing line, or rather onto the curb, be a little bit faster.
That could definitely be the case. It's either more confidence, or it's a case of, well, we sort of need to use all the road here, otherwise we're not making the turns. Oh, and a move in the background. That's Drexler going up the inside of Alberto Ibanez. Great outbraking maneuver from Drexler. Aggressive, but got the move done. I reckon as well Alberto probably saw him coming and sort of made it not too incredibly difficult once Drexler was up the inside. We can see here a little bit. Simon Wattman all locked up, going across the chicane at the Parker chicane. Santo takes 19th position away from him. I was going to say this might be a battle, but unfortunately not quite the case. But the battle here is back on between Tim and Equino. Almost seems like it's the tires possibly cycling a little bit, where a driver is a little bit quicker for a few laps and then they sort of need to slow down to let the tires cool off, as Johan Bols outbroke himself going into the old hairpin and losing a whole heap of time now. But still retains his 10th position, because David Saber has dropped quite a bit of ways from these two.
I don't think he was gonna be any friends of the old chicane today. Quite a stinky curve for him.
Probably quite heated in the inside that helmet at the moment. Oh, Juha Boos has been given a drive-through. I wonder if he may have ended up shortcutting somewhere somehow, but drive-through it is for Juha, so looks like he might now lose 10th position to David Saber, who I think is going past now. He is. So that's unfortunate for Juha, but that is just one of those things. I noticed Ricardo Mendes is still hanging on to Anders Nilsson, and it might be sort of the kind of situation where there were two cross-country skiers doing the classic skiing as such, the diagonals and all of that, and one of them were following the other, and after the competition, the guy who was following said, "That's the best technique training I've ever had. I just had to look at him, copy him, and that was much better."
Brandis could definitely be a great teacher, given his age and experience he has in sim racing by now.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely not a bad place to be for Ricardo Mendes, but of course he wants to be in front of Anders.
Definitely so. A top 5 in what I think might be Ricardo's first race this year would be a very nice reward.
He's definitely one of the rather new guys. Together with Chanchurama, who starts with this race the first time for a full championship. It didn't join mid-season. So could be also worth taking and having an eye on them, how they will do over the whole season, and see how consistent they are.
Mm-hmm. Traffic galore. Ray Riddle makes a move on Jason White, who gets out of the way of the slower cars, and now Slapinski has to dispense of Ray, and he does so into the Parker chicane. And now Wilkes is looking to do the same down the front straight, and Ray very sportingly just lifts a little bit, lets Ricard get the run, and there he goes. Oh, that's a spin for Hedison Oliveira. Looks like he is out of the way and waiting to rejoin safely. Very nicely done, well done. Looks like there might be a battle brewing here between Drexler, Rocha and Alberto Ibanez.
Drexler definitely has a great race so far. He's already made up 13 places. And he started off with Jason White at basically 1/4 point, and now he's getting up maybe into the top 10 if we have some more attrition here.
Indeed.
Maybe some more spins.
Alberto Ibanez completely locked up into the Parker chicane and runs off and wide. And here comes the leader as well to put a lap on Alberto. Oh, Jason White unfortunately with a drive-through now. Presumably ended up shortcutting the chicane there, and the game thought, well, that's shortcutting it a bit too quickly. So unfortunately that's a penalty for him. Hopefully it won't cost him too much time, as Drexler, overdriving it just a tiny bit, snags the left rear on the braking and runs off in the old chicane. Rocha trying to take advantage but not able to do so. Ooh, and Rocha all crossed up, just about holding on, trying his darndest to try and give Drexler a run for his money. Ooh, Drexler locks up entirely off at the Parker chicane, as does Rocha, following him off. And through all of that, I believe, here comes Ibanez. Ibanez must have lost a lot of time with another mistake there. But all in all, status quo.
David Saber has just done a nice 360 into turn 1 already a few seconds ago, and now Juha is right up on his gearbox, looking to make a move into the chicane, possibly for our last points position for the M1 championship.
Ooh, no, there's a bit of a touch. Oh, just about holding on is Juha there. So that's a... won't quite get that chance. Unfortunately, Jason looks like Jason may have picked up a second drive-through. And Juha Boas with another drive-through. Dear me, the cutting rules on the AMS tracks can unfortunately be a little bit aggressive at times, and especially the chicane on this track is, shall we say, quite sensitive.
Yeah, you got, I think, 3 cuts allowed, and by the 4th one you get a drive-through, and I think you just got another cut, so after that you have 1 cut per drive-through. The game doesn't forgive you a lot, let's put it like that.
Indeed. So unfortunately for Juha, he was looking for a move on Saber, but instead another bit of time spent in the pit lane with hopefully one of the pit crew, someone in the pit crew out there with an ice cream for him if he was very lucky to cool him off. As unfortunately Alien May has decided to retire the car as well. Might have happened quite a few laps ago, but possibly parking the car to make sure she is out of the way of the other drivers.
The top 3 are by now quite close together again after they had like a 1 second car gap to the next car. Cesaris has now slowly closed up within half a second, and if these two are gonna battle, Richard Wilkes know what he's gonna do. He's going to close down the gap and maybe put his own head into the fight for the win.
It could definitely be the case. I can see there that that was Gabriel Sturr, wasn't it, coming out of the pits? Or it might have been Luciano Rocha. Well, I think that was Sturr coming out of the pits. Fairly sure that was the case.
He hasn't lost any position or any time. His gap is still the same for like what it was 2 laps ago.
Oh.
Might have been Santo, because he's fairly slow at the moment.
Ah, that's the other reddish car, yeah. Could definitely be the case, but either way, Schlapinski definitely is closer to Grant than he's been before. 12 laps to go. Ooh! Grant running wide off the Parker chicane, all crossed up, right rear on the grass, and thankfully for himself is able to hold the car back onto the track and keep on the fighting, as Mendes and Stur is really close to one another now. Looks like Mendes might have been slightly held up by the slower traffic, and Stur now with a small possibility of picking up 6th place in this race.
Inquino and John Tim are also exchanging their places quite happily at the moment.
Yeah, they've been doing that for at least half of the race by now, so they might be very tired of one another by the end of the race. Ślepinski gets right up underneath the rear wing of Grant Riddle's M1, and Wilkes trying to vie into this battle as well with what is now 10 laps to go. As we're on board with a Project 4 driver, looking back at Ślepinski and Wilkes. It's another one of those interesting things with this Donington circuit where like what was happening a few years ago when we did the 1996 BTCC Championship. Different drivers were good at different points despite running same or very similar cars, which seems to be the case here, where Grant looks very good through Coppice and through the Park chicane and at turn 1, but through Hollywood, the Craney Curves, Old Hairpin and McLean's, Ślepinski looks very, very strong.
Might also be a setup difference. I mean, the setup options are very limited. I think you can only change 2 or 3 things on the suspension, the rear wing, brake balance, gears, tire pressure, and that's about it. But, you know, even the best sim racers can do a lot of things with very small things, so maybe Cesarius has found something Grant hasn't found, or the other way around.
Could definitely be the case. I will say I'll never forget the championship I drove with the by now old BMW Minis, where the only thing you could change was the rear wing at 1 or 2 and the tire pressures, but the immense difference just like 5 psi did in terms of tire pressures were like, oh my god. You could go from a car that was understeering and say 5-10 clicks more of rear tire pressures, and you had a car that was oversteering. I noticed as well Santorama has been caught by Nelson, so that is also a battle to keep half an eye on. But for now it looks really close between Ridol and Ślepinski once again. And it definitely feels like as well, like I mentioned before, the tires are cycling a little bit, where they get too hot as drivers are trying to get by. They have to back off for a lap or a lap and a half, and then they can go again for 1 or 2 laps of trying to get past. Ooh, Ślepinski outbrakes himself. Wilkes looking for the cutback. Oh, a bit too crossed up, I think, off that Parker chicane though. Or maybe not. That looks like quite a fast run down the front straight. Ślepinski still up the inside though. Oh, a bit of side-by-side contact. Oh, Wilkes too much throttle in the marbles on outside. Half spin, gets back going again. Holds on, but now quite a few seconds behind Slapinski, who himself lost 1.2 seconds to Grant Riddle with all of that. And Santorama still with Nilsson in his mirrors. And Equino has made his way past Jonatan.
But the little gap,
go on.
the little gap Grant just created by this little mix-up between Cesarius and Richard Wilkes just disappeared because of the traffic, and it's now back down to half a second, supposed to the compared to the 1.5 seconds we had before.
That's unfortunate for Grant, but good for us. And Anders doing what he can to try and put Santorama under pressure as well. And it feels like with Anders, it's a bit like how they would describe in the I think it was the 1994 Bathurst 1000, where when Craig Lowndes took the lead and John Bow was sitting in behind, and he was getting so incredibly close to the rear bumper of Lowndes, but the commentator saying, no, he'll just sit there, he won't touch, he'll just put him under a lot of pressure. And that's sort of what the feel I'm getting from Nilsson right here.
Probably just waiting for the perfect moment.
Indeed. We'll say Santorama is really good off the Coppice turn right there. Gives him just a little bit of a gap to work with going down into the Parker chicane, which is, to be fair, probably the best passing opportunity on the track. Although there are more opportunities, but back at the front it's now down to 3/10. I get so worried every time I see that camera angle from the back going into McLean's, and you see Slapinski's car pointing what looks like 15 degrees to the left, but it still gets the car turned into McLean's. When you are bored with another drive-through penalty, dearie me. I think Yua will be quite an unhappy camper by the end of this race. But as all our drivers finish this lap, that was just finished by Grant and Cesarius, everyone who finishes it will be eligible to the points in the race. No matter if all of them have trouble and retire. Meantime, battles is on. Santorama versus Nilsson, Mendes versus Stur, and Equino versus Tim.
Anders might be looking for a move.
He definitely had to think about it.
The finish is getting closer, so you might be thinking about it more than you did the last few laps.
Quite. Oh, and Ślepinski now with a very good run off the old hairpin. He might have a go up at McLean's, but no, does not. Ooh, both Grant and Ślepinski on the limit into the chicane. And Simon Wattman there getting out of the way of both Centorame and Nielsen.
Juha just served another drive-through. Hopefully his last for today.
Indeed. And it's definitely obvious looking at the cars right now, especially at least these two, Grant and Ślepinski. Looks like the rear tires are starting to give out, but with 2 laps left at the end of this lap, they are probably good to go to the end. But both of them working very hard here.
Still now within half a second of Mendes. Might be a desperate last lap launch coming up for him.
Oh, you are with another drive-through penalty. Dearie me. When Tim slightly off the road there. Yellow flag up here.
Ibanez just spun.
That was Ibanez indeed. Grant trying his darndest to get a good run onto the back straight. Ślepinski not able to make it happen there, but still 1 lap to go. So on to the final lap they go. Saber getting right out of the way there. He wants no part in this fight for the win. Just checking Anders with a bit of a run, but not making anything with it. Let's see what Ślepinski can do in this final lap. Will he be able to get the win here, or will he have to settle for second? Grant, I think, is safe up at McLean's. He has a big enough... Oh, Ślepinski actually going for the inside! Oh, there might have been a bit of contact! Dear me, Ślepinski is passed. Let's see if Grant can fight back at all. Oh, Ślepinski all crossed up. I think he might have enough of a gap. The question is, was there contact or not? But either way, Ślepinski into the final Parker chicane. Onto the start-finish straight. And the checkered flag will be out. And Ślepinski takes the win. Oh, and Grant stopping right after the start-finish line. I don't think he is happy. There might have been some contact then, or maybe just frustrated with himself. But either way, that's second for Grant. Richard Wilkes, I think overall will be happy with picking up third here. Centorame gets fourth with Anders Nilsson a very close fifth. Mendes holds on to sixth ahead of Gabriel Sturr in seventh. Jon Tim coming across all crossed up, so Quino gets him. 8th for Alberto Junior with Jon Tim in 9th. David Saber, I think, has finished, so Saber finishes 10th with Luciano Roja in 11th. Grant Woodall 12th, Juha Bos 13th, Mikael Drexler will finish 14th. Hedison Oliveira in his first race here will finish in 15th. Alberto Boneth gets 16th with Sim Watman 17th, Jason White 18th, Francisco Amal 19th, and Alan Santo rounding out the finishes in 20th, with our retirees being Inian May, Matthew Sibagnoni, Keo Michiels, Kenny Horton, Igor Fredriksson, and Jan Kowalski. Whew. What a race that turned out to be in the end.
Well, we always had like a pair of drivers keeping us occupied. At the end, we had even too many pairs of pairs to look for.
Quite.
I expected to have like a bigger bunch of cars to follow, but some cars were spaced out and some cars just were together for the entire race, like John Team and Alberto and Quino. I think one person knows exactly how the M1 of the other car person looks and the other way around. Maybe we could ask them to paint the car of the other person.
I think they could probably have the cars on behind their eyelids after all of that.
And our eventual race winner is in the green room, going up the stairs right now to visit us.
Well, let's
User was moved to your
open
channel.
up the door for him. Good evening, Cesarius. Congratulations on the win there.
Thank you very, very much. I was not expecting actually to take this opportunity over Grant because, second place is quite a big bunch of points and I wanted to collect that.
Looked like you had quite a bit of pace in the opening 5 to 8 laps, and then Grant came flying and got past, and then there were a bit of a spaced out situation, and then you started catching back up. Was that sort of the plan, having the car come back to you over the course of the race, or was that a more lucky circumstance?
Well, I think it was rather a matter of Grant's tires started overheating earlier than mine, and I kept the slower pace, couple of corners, less aggressive to keep the tires below 115 dig. But actually, I finished up like having a 120 or something like that at the end. Let's say at the 3 last laps or something like that.
Ooh. That sounds quite a handful, to say the least. And you were able to get the move done in the final lap there. That was much akin to Matt Neal of BTCC fame. That move, I'd say. You must be quite happy with that.
Actually, that was the place where I seen that Grant is touching his brake and I not. So I think that was the only place I could gain something because mostly, the worst place was when Grant was slowing down and braking for the chicane. I had to brake earlier, not to rear-ending him because his late, let's say, other half of his braking was so intensive I couldn't keep up. So I always quite I would say stayed out from the ground because I knew that he's more efficient on braking before the chicane. But that place when I took the place from Grant was the only place I could actually gain something.
Well, that's one hell of a move to make and very impressive to see. So with a win here and looking at the rest of the schedule, we have the Monaco race coming up next. Quite a difference from the flowing open spaces of Donington to the streets, walls, and similar elevations of Monaco. How do you rate your chances there?
Yeah, I'm already worrying about tire wear and tire temps because the track is even more twisty. And here we have some places that tires could rest for a minute, for a second or so. And on the Monaco, I don't know. I don't know if, I think it's gonna be a tire wear battle or something like that.
Definitely a possibility. Any question you would like to ask there, Tim, before we let Cesarius get back to celebrating the victory?
I don't have any questions left, but good race, Cesarius.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, congratulations once again there, Cesarius. Great effort and good fun to watch.
Thank you. I will get the teacup and watch the broadcast again.
That's a good call. So, before we finish off the broadcast here, let's have a quick look at the trivia question and answer to that one. So, the question for you all tonight was which Italian designer penned the BMW M1? Was it A. Marcello Gandini? Was it B. Giorgetto Giugiaro? Or was it C. Nuccio Bertone? I've seen someone answer C already, and I can see May answering B. Any idea for either of you two what the answer could be?
I like the first name Giorgetto, so B is gonna be my answer for this.
Okay.
And I'm only guessing. My answer is C.
Okay. And we have a guess for A as well from BL. And the correct answer is B. Giorgetto Giugiaro. So congratulations to Angel May and to Tim for getting that question correct. I myself did guess for A myself, so that was a very tricky question from Jason there, and a good pick, I'd say.
This definitely is a trivia question because, I mean, I don't want to disrespect Giorgetto, but I don't think anybody knows his name except for the people who've looked it up on Wikipedia.
Probably correct. Let's see, I just realized I need one more thing, so let me get the... There it is. There we go. So, also before we cap off the broadcast here, we hope to see you all next weekend on January the 22nd, where we will be heading to Spain for Gran Premio Tío Pepe de España. I butchered the name and pronunciation, but the round 2 out of 16 for our 1986 F1 Championship at the Jerez circuit, which, if history is anything to go by, and last time we raced these cars is anything to go by, it is going to be one hell of an interesting race. So you don't want to miss it. Jason White will be with you in the booth, with the race starting at 2000 CET. But until that time, take care of yourselves and everyone around you, and be kind, and have a great week. Good night, everyone.
User